Alex. This is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Alex.
I leave you to it, and I'll give you a heads up 5 minutes before you guys. Bye, guys.
Hey,
leave you to it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Valeria.
Somebody's moving, or is that your office?
No, that's my office. I'm working from home, obviously, and as you can see, I'm drowning in boxes.
Yeah, that's good. It means there's stuff there to sell, or what, or to ship.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm just gonna record this on my phone as well, just in case something goes wrong. So
the last one, the internet cut out somewhere. So I'm thinking it might be because it was in Italy, and maybe we're lucky.
Okay. No, we are a music not publisher. We've been going already for 10 years, and so we have books.
Wow.
The book, magazine.
Very cool.
Magazine. Actually, as I was saying to Valeria, the distributor, we had a distribution for the magazine, and they went out of business because of the pandemic.
Oh.
So I guess we have to rethink our magazine strategy.
Wow. Yeah, it's a popular or common story lately in the last few years, isn't it? Too bad.
It's really strange because it's really hard to make any prediction.
Yeah. Well, you can't make any plans. I know a lot of my friends have been trying to, in other bands and all that, and festival people too, and agents and promoters, but friends in other bands have a lot of them, most of them, never planned for this financially, never planned for this in their lives, and about this day. They always, artists kind of generally are artistic, and you don't, not all of us, but generally think more about, as long as I can get to next year and make my art, or as long as I get to next year, and you don't think about what if it stops and ends tomorrow, or you lose your arm, or something happens. And this is quite the wake-up call, because so many of my friends in other bands have, no matter what you see or what you thought, like if you Googled how much money do they have, they don't have that. It's all a lie. So many people are in big trouble, as you know. There's musicians that you and I know now that you think they would be okay, like they should be fine, but they're not. Like they're not only finances, but mental health, alcohol, drugs, relationship problems now, band members quitting, it's, and older bands that were going to go out on, like Aerosmith's trying to go out on their 40th anniversary. It's been 2 or 3 years they've been waiting, so, and Nikki Sixx selling publishing and their big arena tours and all this stuff. It's causing everybody to do things, even the big guys, to have to worry and change their lifestyles and start thinking about the future. Now, I totally changed my life around in the last 2 years. I was very lucky on one side, because when this went to hell in March or whatever it was in 2020, I was one of the lucky ones of my group of band friends at this kind of level, up and down from where we are, where I was already financially at a point where I was fine. So the problem is, I wasn't smiling about that. I was feeling bad for most of my friends, and I'd even tried to help some of them out. However, I got my taste of reality very shortly after, when I caught COVID, the original one.
Oh my God.
And then my family caught it, and I was for 2 weeks. It felt like there was an elephant sitting on my chest, and a crackling log fire coming out of my throat when I breathed. So I was very close to getting the tube down my throat to breathe.
Oh my God.
It took 7 months before I woke up at home and I took a full breath. It took 7 months. So now I kept hearing about this fucking long COVID, and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. 7 months long before I could actually breathe properly. So that took me until November of 2020. Then I had 2 toenail surgery for 2 toes, my big toes. You know when some people wear their shoes too tight and the inside of their nail gets infected, toenail gets infected?
So both.
I had both of them. I had that for 30 years from touring and from not taking care of them. And they finally took the nails out and they put acid in your toes so that the acid keeps the nails from going back. So that meant I couldn't walk for 6 weeks. So that was after the long COVID. Then I started getting very, very, very bad pains in my stomach, in my groin. And it turns out I had a hernia and it was strangulated, dying, because your stomach intestines were going through the muscle and dying. So I went into surgery, and it's been 7 months since my surgery, and I still am not recovered yet. So I can sit in a chair, but I can't lift heavy things. I can't go running. I can't walk very long. And I had kidney stones. So fuck, it's great to be okay with money in studio and that. And then the next month, I'm completely done for like a year. So I had the very bad year, but I survived it, and it was okay. And but man, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that won't survive this with their careers and their relationships and that, and it's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, the state of the industry is like I needed some help with a contract with one of the artists that I'm working with, and the solicitor that was looking after the contract, I couldn't get a hold of him. It was like non-stop with cases after cases because of the pandemic. You know, like contract for venues, bands. So it took me like 6 months to get a hold of him. I mean, I guess I could have used someone else, but I think everyone was in the same boat.
Yep. Yeah, it's terrible. And then this is the one, I'll just say this and then we can move on. But the thing that I learned in this pandemic is I remember going to high school when I was like 14 or 15, and there was 2 punk rockers. They had red hair and blue hair, mohawks, and they had GBH, Dead Kennedys, DOA, all these punk bands on their jackets.
Okay.
And they were always talking about politics and about how the system works and how we're getting fucked from the top and all this stuff. And I was just sort of laughing as a kid because I was into like Judas Priest and Maiden, and we don't talk about that stuff. We like to rock. And I found it funny in this pandemic. I realized those 16-year-old punk rockers in my high school knew more about politics and about the reality of how things work in this world. They knew more about that than I did at 53 years old. So I am absolutely shocked that the people who run this world, and the Prime Minister of England and the Prime Minister of Canada and all these other people, a lot of leaders and people high up in the governments, I had trusted and thought that they were going to be fair, honest about this because it's such a serious thing. All the people that have lost their livelihood, their jobs, the venues, the artists, the people who've lost their grandparents or their family because they couldn't visit them. Mm-hmm. People who've lost everything, their mortgage payments. So you know how that works. And to see people at the top, who we know many politicians are not completely honest, but to see the people at the top now, I thought that they were going to take this seriously and not try to scare everybody and not try to give false information. But mainly, they are not telling us about a lot of science and fact that we should know about. They're just not saying that because they want everybody to do what they want. And it's not a conspiracy thing. It's just a sad thing to me to see that you would hope that this was the one time when these leaders would be completely 100% honest and have feelings and realize this is about the human race and mental health and families and life. It's not about their own fucking, you know what I'm saying, right? It's not about doing
their own power game. It's not about that.
Yeah. And the second thing I realized, which took me so long to understand that those little punk rock kids knew that I didn't, was it was funny that I always thought the Canadian CBC News and the British BBC News, generally in the world, they were known as kind of the two best neutral, real news, unbiased news organizations. We all know CNN is CNN, but the Canadian and the British two news guys, they were supposed to be the most trustworthy.
With some integrity.
And, yeah. And you know what? I cannot, I live in England now. I cannot believe what I've seen from the beginning on the BBC. I just can't believe it's like people believe this stuff. They don't use their common sense to see what is really going on. And it's not a conspiracy from our end. If I say anything to you or somewhere on a website or to the public, it can ruin my career.
Yes, it's unbelievable. It's like, yeah. It's like a police state at this point.
I think it's basically, and again, back to the punk rockers taught me a lesson, is the people at the top that are running this world, the best thing that they can do is cause division, cause people to fight against other people. And that's exactly how that game works. And they've managed to, way back, they managed to, the race issues, which are legitimate issues, but they had some, left, right, all this stuff going on. How about Republican and Democrat in the United States? They had left wing, right, in Canada. They had, Biden versus Trump. You had all this division and two completely different stories, but only one story was getting on the news because the news was owned by a Democratic person or company.
Yes.
So you know how this worked. It's not conspiracy. It's just really sad that back to the reality is that, again, those 16-year-old punk rockers, they told us all that when we were little, when we were young. And some of us, like me, did not want to see it, did not want to believe it. And I spend my time maybe writing some good songs, like a song called Stonewall was about the environment and pollutions and how politicians and corporations spewing chemical into the air and all this basic, simple lyrics. And I had no idea really what was really going on. And I think this pandemic has done a couple of good things. One of them is I think people who have an open mind and sit back and their life can be calm and they can see what's really going on in life now. And all I can do is shake my head and feel really sad that the people at the top are mostly joining in on a very sad and sick human race scam. It's a big lie. It's dishonesty. It's terrible. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
I have someone at the door. One second.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
No problem. 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Okay.
So
done.
Did you say that you live in England now?
Yeah, for almost 4 years now.
How come? How come you moved to England? And where in England? I live in England. I'm Italian, but I live in England.
Durham, and right across from the cathedral. And I moved here almost 4 years ago, and the reason was a woman.
Oh, fair enough. It's a good reason. It's a good reason.
It's probably the most number one reason in the history of man and women.
How do you find that with Canada? I think the weather more or less is the same. Or maybe it's colder in Canada.
No, Canada has completely different weather. In if you go from the Rocky Mountains, which is more in the west, and you go all the way to the east, it can the very far east, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, that can be very, very coastal England. So lots of storms by the sea. You would think you might be in England if you lived on the very east coast.
Okay.
The rest of Canada is all the way to the Rocky Mountains. Huge country, is hot and humid in the summer.
Okay.
Up to 40 Celsius. It's tropical.
Okay.
And then up to minus 40 Celsius in the winter.
Oh, wow. Different.
But if you get across the mountains to the west, you hit paradise, which is British Columbia, Vancouver, Kelowna. And these places are only like minus 3 Celsius, minus 4, 0, plus 3. So at Christmas time, you can go out in your robe and have a coffee outside. And if it's not raining like it is, it rains a lot there. So yeah, it's different. But up here, it's more, it's like a really bad winter in Vancouver here.
All right. Okay. I live in Kent, and the weather's not so bad actually. It's quite south, really, in the country. So I wanted to ask about this new. It's not really a new album. It's called Metal 2, and did you re-record it?
Yeah, basically I did. The catalog I've had was split up with many different record companies around the world, and some of the deals expired and some were still there. And the pandemic gave me a couple of good insights, good ideas, which was number one, if I died tomorrow, you can't find most of my songs on iTunes or Spotify. You can't order the CDs for most of them. So I was on a mission after the long COVID to get them all back, get all the rights back, put them together, and not do a license deal or a record deal. Sell it. Just sell it like a product. Just sell it. But the deal was, you give me money to buy the product, all these records, actually 20 releases. Mm-hmm. You give me money. In return, I want you to it has to be that you will make it available on all Spotify, iTunes, all the future platforms, and hard copies for CDs and vinyls and reissues. And we all talked about it, and Adel was amazing. They are going to basically take my whole life's work and honor it and do what they said. They have to anyway. And the reason why is they paid me. When record companies pay you a lot of money for this, you think about it and you go, well, if they want to make their money back, they have to work. They have to do it, right? So the more money you try to get from them, the more they have to work for sure to get the money back. So it was a good balance. They seemed honest about their ideas and what they wanted to do, but they put it in writing. And then they paid enough money where even if they were not telling the truth, that's their fault, their problem. I'm fine. So the deal was done last year, and then they came to me and said, hey, it's not new studio albums we want to release, of course. So do you have any ideas of how we could promote it? And I was like, I don't know. That we don't have a lot of material, bonus stuff. And they said, I woke up the next day and I called Max, the MD at Adel in Germany, and I said, I think I got a cool idea. I woke up and said, what's the one album that I would like to redo out of the whole catalog? There was only one. It was called Metal, right? And it was because the original band members were three. Mike Mangini, Dream Theater, Steve Vai, Annihilator, and what else? The drummer was Mike Mangini. Oh, I said that. Dave Padden was my singer for many years. He was singing, and myself. And it was a perfect storm on that record where the three of us were short on the schedule. I mismanaged my schedule. I didn't do the best job on the technical side. I rushed it. The singer was having problems at home, so his brain wasn't in the recording, so he wasn't really there. And Mike Mangini was doing some really big records and tours, and he's so good that he thought he would just come in on the weekend and quickly do the drums. And the problem was he was a machine, but that's it. There was no creative stuff going on. So the three of us, we've all worked together on other albums, but that album, the three of us just didn't do well. Like we really didn't do a great job. So I thought that's the one I've always wanted to redo. And it also had 12 amazing guests on it, doing some songs. So I said, fuck, let's just get my favorite drummer that's alive, because Neil Peart's probably my favorite drummer. And then after that, it's, a tie between, Dave Lombardo, Buddy Rich, and the drummer from the Knack a long time ago, if you remember the band The Knack. And the drummer from the band The Sweet, who passed away also. So those are my favorite four drummers in second place. And I called Dave Lombardo up because he's tied for second with me. And he's always wanted to do an Annihilator record, and I've always dreamed of having Dave Lombardo play music with me. Even to play live with Annihilator would be cool. But he was kind of busy. He had some other bands he was in called Slayer and Mr. Bungle and Misfits and Suicidal and all that. So it was an honor for me to call him up and say, Dave, would you consider doing it? And I think he said the word F word and yeah. So F yeah. And I was like, wow. I mean, this is amazing. Same with Stu Block. I've always wanted to get him an Annihilator, but John Schaefer got him right before I got to him. So I think I would have got Stu many years ago, but John Schaefer was first. Vice versa. So it was like a dream team. But then I told them, it's not for a new album. I want you to take the record, Dave, and completely do what you want to do. And I said to Stu, just do whatever you want. I don't care what it is. Just do whatever you want to do. And each of you have 3 takes, 3 tries, and that's it. So, right. And they're all looking at me thinking, you're crazy. Like what you don't want input. You don't want to tell us what we should be doing. I said, no, I don't want to tell you anything. You just do your 3 tries. I'll pick the best one, and that's it. And they were like, wow, that's cool, because they are both used to producers and, guitar players in the bands, maybe sort of saying, this is what I want you to do. This is how I want you to play it and sing it. And then I come along and say,
the opposite.
The opposite. No, I don't even want to hear what you're doing. You are Dave Lombardo. You do what you do best. And Stu was the one that was the most nervous about this, because he has so many
Sorry,
voices.
guys, you got 5 minutes left.
Okay,
sorry.
Thank you.
Stu was the most nervous because he had so many voices, and he didn't know what to do. And I wouldn't help him. I did not help him. So he said one day, he goes, I'm doing this song with Alexi Laiho playing on it, and I just hear Phil Anselmo singing it. And I'm like, well, then do what you want. So that's what you get on the record, is kind of like a schizophrenic Stu, because he's got so many great voices. And again, it's not meant to be a new studio album, so there's no pressure. It's just a jam. So you got Dave Lombardo doing his version of the album. It's fucking amazing. And it's meant to be raw. It's not meant to be super expensive studio album. And we're not trying to replace the other musicians and say that it was bad. We give both albums will be released. And it was just a fun idea to help the label get attention to the catalog. Plus, there's like 12 badass musicians on there.
Yeah.
So also, the other thing that just seemed perfect was, I was friends with Alexi, pretty good friends with Alexi for a long time. And it's not, I'm just saying it because he died and I met him. He would come on stage and play with us. We would hang out together, go on the boat cruises, things like that. He would come over. I would see him at different shows, and he'd come over to my whatever. But so we were friends for quite a long time, since around 2005. And when he passed away, I was like, fuck it, just devastated for a few weeks, about a week or two, I think. And then, of course, Eddie Van Halen died last year too. And he was like my second father that I never met. So sort of like a musical father, like he was the guy. And so I thought, well, I did a Van Halen cover tune, so let's put that on the record. I did an Exciter cover tune. And Dave Lombardo liked Dan Beeler, the drummer from Exciter. So he got to do that. Dan Beeler's drumming. And Stu is Canadian. He loves Exciter, so that was a perfect fit. And then, of course, Alexi Laiho shreds a whole lot of solos on Downright Dominate. So it became almost like another perfect reason to have fun and say it's a tribute to those Van Halen and Laiho.
And the title fits. Metal. You can't get more metal than that.
Yeah, especially with the guests on there. I mean, I think you can look it up. It's for the year 2006 when I arranged it. Came out in 2007. The labels and everybody told me you're not going to get all these people because there's managers and labels. Yes, and you're going to have to pay. You have to pay for these people. And I got to tell you, everybody you see on that album, except Dave and Stu, they didn't get paid for that album. I told them I didn't have a budget to pay it, and they all went to their managers and labels and got written permission to let me use it. And so, in other words, all those 12 or whatever guests are fucking awesome because they could have listened to their managers or label and said, no, Jeff, you got to pay us like $10,000 or $5,000. And every one of them went and said, no, I want to play on this album. It's not a big band. Mm-hmm. They don't have a budget. And every one of those people did it to be nice. It was fucking amazing. Amazing.
It's amazing. Thank you very much, Jeff, for your time. I think our time is up.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Good. Nice talking.
Nice talking to
you. Take care. Where do you live again?
Kent.
Where was it?
Kent. South of England. South of England.
So maybe I'll see you in a show in London someday in a few years.
Yeah. Let's hope it's soon, Let's hope it's soon.
I'll say it's 2023. It starts to open up. That's what I think.
No, man, not another year.
Let's hope.
Take care.
Yeah.
Hey, folks. Thanks for watching this podcast. If you enjoyed this interview, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friend, your family, and your cat. And stay awesome. Don't forget to check out our store at www.headingmusicartwork.com. Ciao for now.
Preview.